Welcome to Heal Within, here with me, Dr. Evette Rose, trauma therapist and also creator of Metaphysical Anatomy Technique. And this podcast is going to be your safe place to explore emotional healing, nervous system repair, and as well as a deep inner transformation. And if you are ready to go deeper and you would like to be supported in your journey, you can of course always book a one-on-one session with me or with any of my certified meta-psychology coaching practitioners. And also you can join one of our upcoming live healing events and workshops or retreats at metaphysicalanatomy.com. Now let's begin your journey back to wholeness, and also one breath, one breakthrough at a time. And today, we walk into a topic that's raw, complex, and really rarely spoken about with honesty. How do you grieve someone who hurt you? How do you grieve a parent that was never safe? This episode is for those who have lived through the ache of a very complicated goodbye. And it's for those also who have reckoned with the death of someone who maybe didn't love you in the way that you needed, or who actively hurt you, and yet you still find yourself unraveling that grief. But it's a different kind of grief. Or is it? You see, it's that space between pain and attachment, and it's also where trauma, psychology meets real life. And I'm also going to be talking with you here today about my story. Because there are stories that we live through that never really truly make it into the light. Not because we necessarily want to hide them, but because of the complexity of truth. And often it doesn't fit into these clean lines that people would expect us to tell our story. And it's one of those stories for me. I mean, I lost my father years ago. I wouldn't even say years. It's quite recent. It's about 5-6 years ago. And I grieved. I absolutely grieved, yes. But not in the way that most people would imagine a daughter would grieve her father. You see, my father was not a safe man. And he was a clinically diagnosed sociopath on top of that. Now, thank God I didn't have a lot of exposure with him. He was always in the pubs and the clubs and drinking. If I did see him, it was very short bursts and moments of interaction, because his priority was out in the pubs, always somewhere wherever there's alcohol. You see, he was a very volatile and emotionally and mentally abusive person, a very abusive alcoholic and self-medicated drug addict. And he weaponized religion, really toting the Bible like in one hand while using the other to inflict violence on people who trusted him the most. You see, as for most of my life, love and pain were literally weaved together in a way that left a lot of deep wounds, and especially in my nervous system. And for years, I kept my distance, holding my boundaries that were necessary for my survival and also for my healing. And he hated my work. You know, when I started to share my voice publicly, writing, teaching, standing for holistic healing, he clapped back, right? He sent very abusive emails to my staff, attacking me on social media, and he really tried to undermine my credibility, insulting the very essence of what I stood for. But what was interesting, he never attacked my truth, and especially my truth when I spoke of him. It's interesting how he attacked videos and comments about maybe religion or God, but he didn't touch the ones where I talked about my childhood. Now, despite that, it's going to be a conversation for another day. I mean, that's a whole nother episode probably, but despite all of that, the rejection, it ran deep. It ran so deep. So when the hospital called me 6 months before he passed, asking me if I would take over, the person who would sign and make decisions on his behalf, because I was the only person that he listed on his next of kin. No one else. No one else. He was even at that point kicked out of a church, and he was not allowed. They had a restraining order, from the priest. I mean, he was quite a force to be reckoned with. And I froze. My first instinct was no, why me? Why now? After all these years of silence, no contact. Why now after everything? Why can't it just be someone else? There has to be someone else that, can take care of all of this. But for some reason, something in me just paused. And I took a deep breath, a really long, painful breath. And I heard this whisper, and of course that was my inner voice. And it said, be the bigger person, not for him, for you. And I took that step. And I did. Not to fix the past, not to force forgiveness, but to be at peace with who I was becoming. Because until that phone call came, I realized I wasn't fully at peace. I thought I was, but I wasn't. And I want to share now with you what I learned from that journey. What I learned from those final months. Because my father was never going to step into my world. He couldn't. His trauma, his neurological wiring, his perception of life, it all kept him locked inside of this framework that I couldn't get him out of. And I couldn't talk him out of it. But I had the capacity to stretch just enough to meet him where he was. And that didn't mean betraying myself. It didn't mean matching him. Not in his chaos, not in the pain, but in language. In reference points that made sense to him. You see, he was Christian. I was raised Christian. And he carried the Bible everywhere he went. And even if he never truly embodied the message, which he didn't, he knew the verses. I knew the verses because I had to read that Bible for hours on end as punishment, right? So I knew the rhythm of the scripture. I knew it. And so I started to speak to him through that lens. I started to share Bible verses with him. We talked about redemption. We spoke about grace. Not the feel-good kind, but the kind that survives war zones of the soul. And something remarkable happened. I'll never forget this. This is a permanent timestamp in my past. For the first time in my life, my father listened. He softened. He even responded with something other than rage and that toxic dismissal with insults, like saying really bad words to me. This was the first real conversation I'd ever had with him. No yelling, no threats, no manipulation. Just two human beings standing on this destruction and this ruins of basically a broken relationship. It's almost like trying to reach across to each other, trying to connect. And for a brief moment, we did. We did. You see, people often ask me, how did you find peace with a man like that? And the truth is, I didn't look for it. I didn't wait for it. I chose it. And I mean, I forecasted the future and I asked myself, what do I want to live with? And I saw a version of myself that no longer was carrying the weight of resentment. And I envisioned a life where my inner child didn't have to keep chasing the ghost of a father that she never really had. I wanted to be able to say that I did everything that I could within integrity to heal. And that meant showing up in the present moment differently. I had to let go of waiting for that apology that was never going to come. I had to stop making peace conditional on his transformation or his capacity to transform. I had to stop telling myself that meeting him halfway meant abandoning who I was. Because it didn't. It actually meant stepping into a higher version of myself. It meant choosing clarity over pride. It meant embracing wisdom over righteousness. And so many people resist connection, even compassion, out of fear that it will cost them their power. But let me tell you, when it's done with discernment, with boundaries, with intention, matching someone in that way is not a weakness. It became my strength. It's the kind of empowerment that comes from being grounded in your truth while still creating space for someone else's humanity, however broken it may be. And this wasn't about compromise. It was about sovereignty. And sometimes the most powerful healing is found in that, well, at least for me, in that quiet decision to show up differently. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. You see, when my father did come to pass, I grieved. But it's not the type of grief that I was expecting. I didn't grieve for the man that he was. I didn't grieve the memories of love or safety or warmth, because those things never existed between us. But what I did grieve was the father that I never got to have. I grieved the fantasy of who he could have been. I grieved the loss of hope that now that he's passed, the chance at least for him to change has now passed as well. I grieve for that little girl in me who didn't have everything after all of this. And I held on to that last thread of hope that just maybe one day he will change. And for anyone else listening today, if you had an abusive parent, or you still have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm very sure that this will ring true for you. Because that one day that he would, just look me in the eyes and just say, I'm sorry. That day that he would say that, I'm proud of you, it never came. And now it's gone. So when he died, it wasn't just a life that ended, but it was a real, true, final closing door that I kept open my whole life. And I didn't realize it until the day that he passed. And for me, it felt like the death of potential, the death of hope. And that for me, that was, how can I say, it's like more than the loss of his physical presence, right? And that is what really hit me, and it hit me hard. You see, when we look at also the psychology of this, this is known as, they call it, what is it? Ambiguous grief. There it is. It's like a type of grief that doesn't stem from mourning someone who gave us love and security, but more from mourning the relationship that we should have had. It's the pain of what never was. And because there is no real, true shared narrative around this kind of grief, it often goes unacknowledged. And it can feel so isolating. It's so confusing and sometimes even shameful. I mean, even before this podcast episode, I was saying to my husband, I don't know if I should say this. Maybe this is too much. Maybe this is too raw. And then the other side of me is like, well, Evette, this is all about being real. It's about being human. It's about normalizing pain that we went through in the past. And many of you who probably know my work will know I stand very strong in that. And I took a deep breath and I made this episode because I'm not the only person going through this. Because if you're, for example, maybe grieving someone who caused you harm and your heart still breaks in ways that logic and words just cannot explain. I mean, this kind of grief is compounded by what trauma experts also call, it's called like that chronic invalidation. It's that prolonged absence of attuned connection, emotional safety, and unconditional love. Because when a parent consistently fails to show up in ways that meet the child's emotional needs, it creates that attachment theory that refers to the insecure or the disorganized attachment. And in this state, a child doesn't learn to trust the world or themselves. They often become, hypervigilant, anxious, or emotionally numb, and patterns that are carried into adulthood. And neuroscience, it confirms this. Children raised in emotionally abusive and neglectful environments, they show lasting changes in brain structure and function, right? The amygdala, that brain's threat detector, becomes overactive, keeping the nervous system on constant high alert. Prefrontal cortex, this helps to regulate emotions and make sense of experiences. This is struggling to override those survival-based reactions. The anterior cingulate cortex, that's associated with empathy and error detection, that can become greatly dysregulated, making it so much harder to trust, connect, and also self-soothe. But perhaps also most painfully is the reward system of the brain, particularly the nucleus accumbens. This remains tied to the hope of that relational repair. This is why so many adult children of abusive parents keep reaching out, even years after mistreatment. You see, the brain is wired for attachment, and it's going to keep searching for that resolution, for a corrective experience, for a version of love that never fully arrives. And it's because of that, part of the biology that keeps looking for that attachment. That's why I made the decision to connect with him, but not according to my values and beliefs, but in a way that I knew I would get through to him. You see, so when my father passed, my nervous system experienced not just that loss, but this long-held, wired emotions, memories, all of this collapse with that long-held expectation. And that inner child who had waited decades for that validation suddenly had nowhere to go. There was nowhere to anchor in and attach that hope to. And that, more than anything, it broke me wide open. Not his death, but the realization that he would never come or become at least that father that I always needed. And that the healing that I longed for is not going to come from him. It was going to come from me. And yet, even acknowledging this, grieving not just the man, but the myth, it really became such an important part of my healing journey that, I had to grieve this with eyes wide open. I had to feel the depth of that abandonment so that I could stop trying to rewrite the past, so that I can start choosing a future that's not bound by it anymore, so that I can start connecting and choosing people that are healthier for me and not going to be hopefully the mirror of that perfect father that I never had. And this is what it means to grieve what never was. It is the grief that also liberates us, not because it brings closure, but because it clears space for something new. Self-parenting, inner safety, and a peace that is no longer dependent on someone else, finally changing. And that, let me tell you, while that was painful, it was also the beginning of emotional freedom. The kind of freedom where I can take a deep breath, where my chest and my lungs feel open and peaceful and not constricted. And what I know now is that I can absolutely tell you, if you've lost someone who hurt you, if you're maybe in the middle or it's in the past of grieving an abuser, an addict, a narcissist, a parent who simply just couldn't love you well, know this. Your grief is valid, even if it's a mess. Even if it feels like more relief than sorrow, even if you're grieving the dream and not the person. And if you feel that you are faced with the choice to show up in the final stretch of their life, do it for you, not to fix them, not to prove anything, not hoping for something. Because if you do, that final moment is going to be 1,000 times more painful. Because you deserve a life where you are free. And I can see that now with crystal clarity, standing now on the other side of it. And if you're not standing on the other side of it yet, let me tell you, it's worth it. To be free from that regret, from that rage, from the change of what could have been, matching someone, meeting them on their terms, through their lenses, it's not a weakness. For me, personally speaking, it was a strategy. It was a strategy to find a way for both of us to connect. It's compassion with boundaries. It's also turning towards peace without judgment, without demanding that others join you there, especially demanding that from someone who don't have that capacity. And I don't know if my father found peace. I don't, but I did. And that is something that I really truly can say, not even him can ever take from me again. And this was a final moment where I painfully and silently called my power back. And so for those of you who are still here with me, I actually would love to do a powerful healing meditation for you. And if this touched you, if you're really feeling this, stay with me in this meditation because it's going to be so healing. When you are ready, take a nice deep breath. Finding yourself just noticing as you're exhaling, finding yourself gently coming into the body. I invite you to know that this is also your safe place, your sacred space to grieve. And grieve honestly. gently in your own way. And if you have lost someone who hurt you, if the person who passed was also the person who caused you pain, or they maybe are about to, or you know that they will soon, this meditation is for you. I invite yourself now to be comfortable. You can sit up, lie down, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Finding yourself gently closing your eyes, and as you do, feeling yourself really going within. And taking a nice deep breath in. And exhale completely. Again, breathe in. And exhale. Feeling your shoulders dropping. Feeling your body fully held and supported by the surface beneath you. That's safe support. Fully held right now. And feeling that you are safe right now. You are no longer in the past. You're no longer in survival mode. You are now in present mode. Right here, right now. I invite you now, gently bringing your awareness to your heart space, to the center of your chest. You may feel warmth, tightness, and even numbness. Whatever is here, allow it to be. I invite you now to speak to that part of you that never got what you needed. That little one inside of you that longed for a parent's love, or safety, or tenderness. Breathe into that space. And allow these next words, these affirmations, to land gently and softly. I grieve not just the person, but the promise that was never fulfilled. I honor the little one inside of me who waited and hoped and tried. Instead of silencing that inner child, embrace that part of you. I release the hope that they will never become who I needed them to be. I invite you to imagine that this pressure, the weight of that, is just releasing from your feet down, 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 down to the core of the earth, being neutralized and healed. I choose peace and self-compassion now. I'm allowed to feel pain and relief. My feelings are valid, even if they don't make sense to others. I give all that love that I longed for now to myself. I am reparenting my heart with compassion and grace. My grief is valid. My healing is sacred. And I'm free to move forward now. I invite you to take a nice deep breath in and exhale all that heaviness out. Exhale it out, 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 out. Remembering there's nothing wrong with you. There's no timeline for grief. Especially grief that has no name. I invite you now to bring one hand and place it on your heart, and the other hand on your stomach. Feel the warmth of your own touch. You are here. You are present. You are alive. And your story, it's still being written. Allowing yourself to take a few more breaths. Breathing in peace. Breathing out expectations. Letting your body know that it's now safe to rest. Really, truly rest. And I invite you now, as you are there, to imagine your future wiser self coming into that space there where you are. Seeing that part of you who is healed, who has mastered all these emotions. That part of you that's standing there rock solid strong. And noticing how that part of you is also comforting you, supporting you right now. And seeing this moment as confirmation and validation that you are supported, that you are a powerful ally and source of love and support for yourself as well. It's a part of you that you can always go back to when you feel vulnerable, when you have questions, maybe when you feel stressed or upset. This is your place. It's a powerful place to be in. And now, I invite you to hear, feel, see, or sense a beautiful white light flowing from your head, down your whole body, and your future self is still there with you. Feeling this healing light, soothing every part of your body. Soothing any of that old grief that might be there. Resolving and dissolving that grief. Resolving and dissolving. Resolving and dissolving. Very good. And while that white healing light is flowing over you, let's now also do a little bit of breath work. And we'll gently be breathing in the mouth, out the nose 13 times. The last breath you'll hold as long as you feel comfortable, and feel how your nervous system is gently going to reset. And taking note also, perhaps by the 7th to the 8th breath, you might start to feel a little bit dizzy. That's perfectly normal. And when we are ready, I invite you, when you start to breathe, which I will count for you, breathe into the area where you feel the sadness the most. And then from that area, exhale that sadness. Let's start. Nice deep breath in the mouth, out the nose, in the mouth, out the nose. Breathe in the mouth, out the nose. Breathe in the mouth and out the nose. Breathe in the mouth and out the nose. Breathe in the mouth, out the nose. Breathe in the mouth and 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 out the nose. Breathe in the mouth, nice deep breath, and hold your breath as long as you feel comfortable. Just dropping into that dizziness, but at the same time feeling this wave of peace and stillness coming over you. And just allowing yourself to be with that just a little bit longer. Just be with it. Very good. And just notice in that moment how you're also feeling the surface beneath your body, feeling fully supported by that surface. Fully present in the here and now. Fully present in your safe place and space. Very good. And when you are ready, knowing now when you open your eyes, you will look at the world through the eyes of someone who's healing, who is strong, and who's grieving in a different way. And it's perfectly okay. When you're ready, giving yourself a nice big stretch and gently opening your eyes. And welcome back. And when you are ready, give yourself a nice big hug. Just a nice big hug. Well done. Well done for being here with me until the very end. And also our affirmation for today: I love myself enough to let go. And if you know a friend or someone who might benefit from this, hearing this, maybe they will find a moment of healing as well, or an aha moment, please do share it with them. And I look forward to seeing you in my next episode. I love you. And until then, be the light that you are. Bye, everyone. This was probably the most emotional and difficult podcast episode that I have ever made. And this is a trigger warning. I do talk about the death of my father, and also speaking for those who lost a loved one who was an abuser. How do we grieve someone that's done nothing but hurt you? This is a different type of grief. And if this is you, or maybe you know a loved one that's going through this, might be a good idea to join me for this episode to learn and understand what does the other side of grief look like.